Welcome to day 89. This is Getting to Know God, and we are finding out more about God and all of the amazing stories that you can find in the Bible. So we are on day 89, and Gideon makes sure. Good thing to do. This can be found in Judges 6. So it says, before his visitor could tell him any more, Gideon begged, "Please wait while I fetch you some food." He wanted proof that the stranger's message really was from God. "I will stay until you come back," the stranger promised. Gideon hurried home to return carefully carrying a basket of meat and freshly baked bread and a jug of broth. His visitor said, "Put the meat and bread on the rock and then pour the broth over it." Gideon did as he was told. The stranger put out his staff and touched the food. At once a flame flared from the rock and burnt up the food. Now Gideon knew for certain that this was God's special messenger. Beginning with God's words, then the visitor disappeared. Before Gideon was willing to become Israel's leader, he wanted to be more certain that God had called him. "If you have chosen me to rescue Israel, please give me a sign," he prayed to God. "Tonight I will put out a fleece of wool in the place where we thresh wheat. If the wool is wet with dew tomorrow morning, but the ground is dry, I shall know that you have called me." Next morning, Gideon's fleece was so wet that he wrung out a whole bowlful of dew from it. Yet the ground on which he lay was dry. Still, Gideon was not sure. Perhaps it had been chance. "Please don't be angry, God," he prayed. "Show me once more that you will use me to lead Israel. This time, please let the ground around my fleece be wet and the wool dry." God was not angry. He understood Gideon's worries and fears. Next morning, sure enough, the fleece was fluffy and dry, but the ground was drenched with dew. Now Gideon was certain that God was calling him to set Israel free from the Midianites. What do you think of that then? It's really important. I think this lesson is really important to check and double check with God. How often do we check with God something that he might have placed in our minds or an idea? How many times do we check? Most of us probably don't even check, and we just go ahead with something that we might think of. This is really important to check and double check with God. And like Gideon said, okay, if this is the case, make one thing dry and one thing wet. And he did. I think God understands and appreciates how thorough and how uncertain somebody could be. He would appreciate that. He'd rather that than somebody who just rushes in and does their own thing without checking with him. Like, who did that? If we go back a few stories, it was in Canaan. Israel did not. I think it was around day 81 where the people of Israel had got into Canaan, into the town of Jericho, and the people of Gibeon, actually, as we go back to it, deceived Israel to look after them. And that was a decision that they made without checking with God. So please check with God. Something that you're planning to do, check with God. Something that you're thinking about, check with God. Always. I'll give you an example. There was a building that I was looking at for a business venture, and when we went to view it, I said, God, if it's not meant to be, do not let us go and see it. But if it's meant to be, let us see it. And on that occasion, the estate agent didn't turn up. And when I phoned him, he said that the booking wasn't confirmed. A week later, he phoned me back. We did go and view it because I am very nosy and I love buildings. But I still trusted in God, because on the first occasion when I prayed to him, he didn't let me see it. So that meant that's not my building. But, you know, as a human being, I'm nosy, I'm interested, and I wanted to see what the building looked like anyway, even though I knew it wasn't mine. So I hope that helps somebody. Please check with God, and God bless you.